Hi, I'm Doug Austin, and I'm the editor of eDiscovery Today, a daily blog about eDiscovery, information governance, cybersecurity, data privacy, and artificial intelligence trends, best practices, and case law. Welcome to another edition of eDiscovery Today's Thought Leader interview series, where we interview thought leaders in eDiscovery and related legal technologies. Today, we're conducting another thought leader interview by video, and we have a guest who's been a thought leader in litigation for more than 15 years and is the CEO of a company doing transformative things in litigation and e-discovery. Jeff Chivers of Syllo. Welcome, Jeff.
Hi, Doug. Thanks for having me here.
You bet. Before we get started, let me introduce Jeff. Before launching Syllo, Jeff spent more than 10 years of his career in litigation with Sullivan and Cromwell, the Employment Rights Group, and Chivers LLP. He clerked for the Honorable Pamela K. Chen of the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York and clerked for the Honorable Thomas L. Ambro of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit. He holds admission to the bars of New York, Pennsylvania, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, and 6 U.S. District Courts. Jeff is also a visiting lecturer in law at Yale Law School, where he's taught courses in artificial intelligence, the legal profession, and procedure. In 2019, Jeff founded Syllo, a first of its kind software system for litigation, and a new educational partner of eDiscovery Today, which I'm really excited about.
As
Ready to get
always.
started? Yes, indeed. Very excited about that. Are you ready to get started, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Okay. For starters, for those in the industry who don't know about Syllo, how did your company get started, and how did you get into developing a product like Syllo?
So my undergrad was in computer science and with a significant focus in natural language processing. So in my career as a litigator, I really became very personally familiar with the pain points of litigation and all the information management, document analysis, and all that goes along with building up big, complex litigations. And I also was following really closely the advancements in natural language processing and machine learning over the course of my litigation career. And in, I guess it would have been 2018, I started clerking for Judge Amber in the Third Circuit, and it happened that Theo Rostow, who's now a co-founder of Syllo, was also clerking there. We met while clerking, and we clicked right off the bat with respect to what we anticipated the changes would be in the litigation process with the advancements that were already occurring then in natural language processing. By then, the transformer model had been published about. There was the earliest versions of the large language models that have really come to the fore over the last couple of years. And we just started talking, and that led pretty quickly towards plans for post clerkship, building a company together. We got together with a couple of engineers out of Carnegie Mellon initially, and the four of us co-founded the company in 2019, right at the end of the clerkship.
All right. We've seen a lot of AI and generative AI entries entering into the legal and e-discovery markets over the last couple of years, as well as existing providers having added their own Gen AI capabilities. So, what makes Syllo unique?
I think there's a few things. One is we've really had a consistent and clear vision from the outset of a unified AI-powered platform for litigation. And that's a very ambitious thing for anybody to take on. That's why we stayed in stealth development for several years. And that consistent vision really makes a big difference. And we're seeing that over the last couple of years where we set from the outset to build something that is a unified platform for litigation. And of course, that covers e-discovery because that's a really big part of managing a complex litigation, but it goes more broadly than that. I think that consistent vision is starting to bear real fruit with respect to the features that we're able to put into Syllo. We're not bolting on additional features to something that started as an e-discovery platform or bolting on some type of drafting solution to something that started as a legal research platform. What we have built from the beginning is meant to be this unified collaboration platform for the entire litigation team. More concretely, with respect to what are customers using and what makes us the unique in terms of the feature set that customers are using immediately, the document review solution that we've built for automated first level document review and really automating a substantial part of the document review process is a highly differentiating feature on Syllo. the degree of the volume and the complexity that our solution can handle in large scale cases is a pretty significant differentiator. And our overall approach to the application of Gen AI is differentiated in the sense of we bring a significant amount of ontology enhancement to our application of generative AI, and that blends a lot of domain expertise in terms of the concepts and ontologies that drive analysis in litigation, whether you describe that as legal analysis or litigation analysis. We blend that deep domain expertise with the nascent, the inherent capabilities of generative AI to get outputs that are better for legal use cases.
That makes sense. So I guess it would be fair to say, since you talked about unified litigation platform and a unique approach to document review, you're not really trying to shoehorn the technology into existing workflows. You've really tried to streamline a whole brand new workflow, right?
I think that's right. And I do think that the workflow is just very different. And
Hmm.
it is interesting as we have rolled out the product to see customer reaction to it and to see lawyer reaction to it. I think the reaction has been really, really good, but it is a very different workflow. It involves significantly fewer people to handle a really large litigation, and it puts a lot more control over the process into the junior and mid-level and senior associates who tend to be running really big cases at big firms.
Yeah, makes sense. So, one of the things that I think we've seen in the industry over the past few years is that many people feel that legal industry acceptance of predictive coding, TAR, and CAL technologies never really reached the level they expected it to reach. So, do you think the pace of acceptance will be different for Gen AI? And if so, why?
I do. I do think it'll be much more rapid acceptance and adoption of generative AI technologies, both in the eDiscovery and document review realm and also across the rest of the litigation workflow. Why? I think there's a few different reasons. One is the solution works so much better than TAR and CAL that the objections to TAR and CAL from an accuracy standpoint are much weaker with respect to the objections to the Gen AI solution that we've built and I know others are working on. It works better. And so the objections are much harder for the detractors to make. It's also easier to understand for lawyers, and whether that's a partner or senior associate or mid-level associate who's thinking about applying generative AI technology to their litigation or to the discovery process. I think it's a lot easier to understand in the sense that they're drafting out the instructions that they would want the system to carry out in the course of conducting a document review. The system's outputs are natural language in the form of explanations and rationales and coding and highlighting of sections of documents, and all of that is much easier for the lawyers to understand than a conversation about seed sets and illusion and the machine learning conversation that over the last 10 years, I think the degree to which the conversation around TAR and CAL got mired in the machine learning internals was, I think, one of the significant roadblocks to that the adoption across the industry. And I think with generative AI, it's much easier for the user to just use the solution, see the results, and see what the benefit is.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. So, one of the things people in the market are clamoring for is case studies or real world experience with these new technologies. And of course, you talked about being in stealth mode. Does Syllo have any real world experiences with clients using the technology? And if so, what can you tell us about those experiences?
Yes, absolutely. I think we have so many case studies that we are clamoring to get them published. And in the last 3 months of last year, 2024, more than 40 document reviews were fully automated on Syllo. And that's in real litigation. That's not POC or beta. It is real litigation, including a number of AmLaw 100 firms where their case teams used Syllo as the solution for document review instead of using more traditional methods for doing it. And the experience there has been very good. And what we've seen is that a law firm is, I think, totally understandably, they are cautious with respect to running their first project. And we still do some POCs with firms who haven't used Gen AI or haven't used Syllo to run a document review. And it progresses, in our experience, pretty quickly from running one case on Syllo to running 3 cases or 5 cases. And I'd expect that trend to continue.
Okay. Um, Another thing people have questions about is the cost and the ROI of the technology. And obviously, I don't expect you to give me pricing details, but what can you tell us about Syllo's approach to pricing your platform and its generative AI capabilities?
We have a couple of pricing models depending upon what makes sense for the law firm and what makes sense for their client, either in a particular case or across many cases or across a law firm. So there's still a decent amount of customization that we're doing at the pricing level with respect to speaking to the law firm, speaking to the lawyer, speaking to their client, or the lawyer speaking to their client. Where it shakes out, though, is in the document review solution, it's based upon the number of documents or the number of pages or the amount of AI compute that is used. And we leave that up to the customer. I think what we're seeing is that most of that is converging towards a per document or per page because it is difficult to speak to lawyers or to their clients in terms of Gen AI compute. They sort of don't know what to expect from that. And so they're happier to get a price quoted out at the document level or the page level because then they know at the outset it will cost X. And in terms of the magnitude of that price, it is just much less expensive than doing it with other methods. That's what we've consistently seen. I think in all of I mentioned more than 40 reviews where this has been done, in each of those situations, we are able to do a price comparison as to what would it be to do it in another methodology using like a team of reviewers or a team of reviewers plus technology assisted review or a team of reviewers plus Cal and what would it cost to run the whole thing on Syllo. And we consistently come in so much lower than the alternative methods that I would just expect the trend to continue.
Yeah, very interesting. So, with that, do you see a shift in how larger law firms like Am Law 100 firms will price their services to leverage technology more, or do you think they'll continue to stick to the billable hour model for pretty much everything they do?
I think we're going to continue to see a mix, and I think the billable hour is not going away. The billable hour has some virtues. It has some downsides, of course, but I think the billable hour has some real virtue as well, and it's not going to go away completely. I think we have already seen some firms begin to price differently the discovery phase of the litigation because so much of it can be automated on Syllo that pricing that in terms of billable hour may not make sense in every case. And so I could see there being a growing percentage of high stakes litigations in which the discovery phase of the litigation is priced out differently than the everything else, or the document review phase of the litigation is priced out in a particular way, but then it's billable hours all around that. So I think it'll continue to be a blend, but with a greater percentage being flat rated or price per document or price per page or price based upon volume, things like that, which provide price certainty ultimately. I mean, I think that's the main virtue of pricing differently than a billable hour is that the customer gets price certainty. They know that certain phase of the litigation or a certain document review is going to cost X, and it really will cost that amount.
Oh, sorry, I was muted there. I'm sure your clients are happy to hear that. Yeah, certainly it'll be interesting to see how things develop. So, when it comes to how to successfully implement transformative technologies like Gen AI, what do you and the Silo team recommend to your clients regarding how to maximize the benefits of these transformative technologies?
I think that the normal principles of change management and I think best practices of rolling out technology mostly just apply the same way with respect to generative AI. I think law firms over the last 20 years have developed experience and capacity with respect to evaluating, trialing, rolling out in some strategic way new technology. I think most of that just applies the same way with generative AI. And I do think that with what we're seeing work really well in the rollout of Syllo is to take bite-sized pieces, take it a step at a time. I would love for law firms to come to me and say, we're going to roll out Syllo across our entire litigation department, and we're going to do it in 2 months. That'd be great. I don't even recommend that though. That doesn't, to me, even though that would be wonderful from some type of commercial and business development standpoint, that's not even what I recommend to folks. I recommend find a lawyer at your firm who is interested in this technology, who has an open mind to the application of generative AI in the discovery process and or in the litigation management process, and who has a client or clients who you expect would have an open mind to applying generative AI to the litigation process. Find that collection of the right litigation team and the right client or two, and do one case with this. Because if you do that, then you're going to have an internal case study at the law firm. You'll have 5 or 7 lawyers and paralegals at the firm who have direct personal experience using the tool, have experience with a new workflow. They can see the results for themselves. And then you can share that internally with a few other folks and get up to 3 case teams. And that I think is what is working the best for our customers. Just don't try to bite off the entirety of change management across an entire litigation department. The time for that is after you've gotten through 1, 3, 5, 7 successful cases, and then you go and then you start thinking about firm-wide training and firm-wide rollout. Again, I would be delighted if a firm comes and just says, "Nope, we just want to roll it across the whole thing." But I just don't think that's realistic to the way technology adoption works within law firms.
Right. Yeah. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So
That's it.
there you go. Yeah, for sure. All right. So final question. Is there anything else you'd like our audience to know about what you and the Solo team are doing?
Oh, I think that we've covered most of it, to be honest. I think that one of the things perhaps that doesn't come across with respect to our product offerings, I think we like to stay very pragmatic with respect to what can Silo do today for your litigation teams. That's, I think, ultimately what is causing firms to use Silo and adopt it and use it in more cases is what it does today. And so I actually try to stay very focused on that and not spend too much time talking about what's coming down the pike in the future. But I think it's worth mentioning that the overall team that we've put together at Silo on the product side and the engineering side has been thinking really deeply about how generative AI is going to transform the litigation process, not just in discovery, but really across the whole workflow of managing complex litigations. And there will be significant additional product rollouts coming in 2025 and 2026 out of that like deeper R&D effort that we've been doing.
Well, that's certainly something to look forward to. So I'll certainly be reporting on those when they do happen. So
That would be great.
you bet. So all right, I want to thank my guest Jeff Chivers of Syllo. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Doug. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
You bet. My pleasure. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another edition of eDiscovery Today's Thought Leader interview series. See you next time on the eDiscovery Today video network. Goodbye.
Thanks, Doug.
You bet.